really encourage, I know we have a lot of board members. Anything I say, an acronym I use or something, please stop and ask me. I view this as much education for you about what the college is doing right, but education for me about what you feel our priorities should be, directions we might be taking from your lens as a board member, things I might not be seeing from my role, any unintended consequences, things like that, again, from your point of view. The ultimate end of the day, our goal is to really just try to help the college achieve its mission as best we can. Right? So I thought I would start by talking about for a little bit here some challenges and opportunities that I think we have in the near future, but also probably looking in the 3 to 5 year range out as well. I would like to work with you to establish my goals and objectives for the year. Typically, we would have done this a few months ago, right? I'm a quarter into the year already, but we are where we are with these, and I just wanted to kind of reaffirm the direction I'm going, that the board sees that as a positive direction for the college. And if there's any kind of redirection you want to do, I'm open to conversations around that. I'll preface that with just a little bit of a review of some of the progress or things that have happened since we did my review. I believe it was in April or March. I can't remember. It's been a while. Yeah, last spring. So I'll chat a little bit about that. So you'll see in here, and I'll put my self-evaluation in here that I produced for the board, since we have 4 new board members, so you can see what my priorities were for the past year. And actually it was the previous 15 months since I was hired in February of 23. So again, I put that in there just for you, and I've made some comments on there that I want to update you on. And then I think we'll review the 24-25 board goals that we had established with the board last year. And then we'll establish the 25-26 board goals and objectives. And then after that, we're going to have a little bit, Lori's going to talk a little bit about some technology things, tablets and whatever, and there's directions moving forward, how we're going to manage board meetings. We'll have lunch, we'll bring in the full leadership team, and we'll talk about, I think, a few bigger initiatives or work that's going on here on campus. And anybody that wants to take a tour a little bit later, we'll take a tour. But the afternoon will be more, we'll stick to the schedule as much as we can, but I think we'll probably end a little bit on the earlier side from that. So if that seems good, we'll just jump into challenges and opportunities. Sound okay? Mm-hmm. All right. So I think that, I want to be one of my goals as president when I came in, and certainly the way I like to operate, not only with the board, but with the campus community, is to be as kind of upfront, transparent as I possibly can. I don't like to, I don't want to create unnecessary drama or concern, but I also don't want to sugarcoat things either, right? Because if we are going to have challenges ahead, I can't solve them all. We're going to have to solve it as a team here, and I'm going to have to solve it as a team on campus. So I think that, straight out of the gate, we're going to start hearing from me and to the board and to the campus community a message that they probably haven't heard in a long time, and that is fiscal challenges coming up. We have been very fortunate as a college since the Great Recession to have managed to put away a significant amount of reserves. We have been able to save for capital construction projects. We've had a fiscally conservative board, and presidents have done a good job of paying attention to that. But we've also had, more than a decade of economic growth in the state, right? And that funds us. Just to kind of give you a sense of our sort of big picture revenues, our general fund, our basic operating expenses, about 46% of our operating expenses are from state appropriations. The rest comes from property tax and tuition. But again, we're almost 50% reliant on dollars from the state for our operational funds. We do receive other funds that have allowed us to build up a reserve. Those have been predominantly from timber tax. We've used that as our sort of savings account over the years. And our timber tax, over the past decade, we've seen it fluctuate from $600,000 to $700,000 a year to, I believe last year was right around $400,000 or something like that. And we anticipate that to decline. Not in the real near future, but certainly looking a little bit longer term, we'll see that decline in Tillamook County. So we've used that to build reserves, in which we have healthy reserves, and I'll comment on those a little bit later, for that. So we've had a message here about, don't worry, we're financially sound, which we haven't been. We have roughly 82% of an operating budget in reserves, which is phenomenal. Most colleges are lucky if they have 10%, right? So we've been good, but, moving forward with declining timber tax, but more importantly, I think, looking at the declining, potential revenue from the state, is what's going to really create a different environment here on campus, where we're going to have to really look at more critically what we're investing in. I don't want to create a deficit mindset, because we're still going to have $9 million to invest in this wonderful institution, probably over the course of the next few years per year. It's less than we would have anticipated moving forward. As you know, or may not know, the revenue forecast, the most recent revenue forecast, put the state from a budget surplus into a budget deficit. It's looking like the next forecast that will come in November is probably not going to trend any better than that one. And the governor has already asked agencies to reduce their budgets. And our agencies are suggesting that we don't wait until we hear what the mid-biennium cut will be, because I'm 100% sure there will be one, and we have Senator Weber could probably.
I'm on joint education appropriation committee, and it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. So I was just at our president's council, and they had legislative days recently. So the legislators were convening and discussing these issues, right? And they're also planning for this. And I suspect there'll be across the board cuts, and I also suspect there'll be targeted cuts, because the budget rebalancing is not going to be an easy task for folks, right? I think everybody's going to have to bear some of that. Now, again, the issue for those of you that might be new is if we wait until 26, 27, when they tell us we're going to get a 10% cut, we've already spent a year of our 2-year budget, right? And so then we would be looking at trying to make up that 10% in 1 year, which is in effect a 20% cut. That would be disastrous for this college to try to do in a year. So I will talk about some things that we're going to be putting forward, right, to really begin to address that. But I just want you to be aware that you will hear from me a different story than you may have heard from prior presidents moving forward, because it's a different landscape. Our campus community is going to be hearing very different messages than they've heard in the past, even from me, right? I mean, I have also felt good about where we are financially and what we've been able to do for our employees. But again, we're moving into a different environment. And so, there will be, I believe, a little bit of anxiety and concern from our employees and the community moving forward. But my goal is to maintain as much service as we can to our students in the community, because that's the most important thing. Okay.
And will you please say more about you just said we'll hear a different message than previous presidents. So will you just say a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I think, I think you've probably heard from myself over the past year, and certainly over the past decade, we've had really good financial reports, right? We've been able to increase our reserves and not have to spend them down. Each year we would budget, for operational expenses, we may budget $400,000 to come out of timber tax or reserves for operational expenses, but we've not had to use that because we've been able to have cost savings either through unfilled positions or things like that. If I have for this year, let's say I've got a $10 million budget for this year for my general fund, and I'm looking at next year having to reduce that budget by 10%. So I'm looking at a $9 million budget next year. For me to be able to do that, I'm going to have to be making cuts this year. Now, I don't know what that looks like yet. I'm getting the team together to kind of discuss what that looks like. We certainly will do everything we can to protect permanent employees. First, we'll look at other operating expenses that we might be able to cut. Again, there's the challenges here. If you look at number two, is I've got, new facilities coming online as well that add to the operational expenses of the college. So the messages you're going to be hearing are ones about probably looking at not being able to provide the, cost of living adjustments like we've been able to provide in the past to the extent that we have, right? We've had, 6% to 8% to 7% yearly increases for our employees. That's hard to manage in a downturn. We've been adding positions and growing, and we're looking at now stabilizing, maybe keeping positions that are currently vacant or open, keeping them vacant while we sort of navigate. So that's what I mean by looking at that message. I think you'll probably also see, and this is where I'll take some direction from the board as we begin developing the budget, seeing our reserves decrease as opposed to increase year on end. And so that's the kind of what I mean when we hear a different message. And I think from the employee side, the message they've always gotten is a real similar one, that the college is the most sound community college in the state, which we still are. But again, I was at the president's meeting last week. Every single president around the table says they have to make personnel cuts. We've been able to stay away from that. Most colleges have been making those cuts in the past years anyhow, right? But they're already doing that. And I don't know where we'll land with that one just yet. We have to start looking at the numbers now and getting at where can we do the savings to meet certain targets and because I think that's important to look at, right? And again, like I said, that's not a message this college has heard. And most of our employees are 4 or 5 years or less here with us, right? So they've been here we only have a few employees that were here in 2009, 2010, when there was a mid-biennium cut, and what the college had to do to withstand that cut, right? They had furlough days that were brought in and things like that. So we just there's not a history here of folks that have experienced that. So managing that my goal is to manage that in a empathetic, sincere, but transparent way. Because the last thing that's respectful to folks is for, to pretend there's not an issue and then, throw something heavy on them at the last minute, So I think that, and I don't know, I'm not trying to create any kind of unnecessary fear or concern. Just, I think it's going to be tough. And we're not the only one, right? It's going to be across the state, across any public agency.
Yes, because I'm sorry if I interrupted.
Yeah.
The big universities are already retrenching, getting rid of whole programs.
Yeah.
That kind of leads to my question is, what would the impact be on the students and what would your messaging be to them?
There will be no impact on students.
Okay.
We always look at positions. Well, I've not done this here, mind you, but in past, when I've had to do similar kind of activities, we always look at those positions that have the least impact on students first. I think that what we'll see from the student side is there a way for us to, and I'll talk a little bit about some of this later. We were doing this work anyhow, whether we were in a budget surplus or deficit. Is there a way to look at streamlining our offerings, recognizing that we can't be everything for everybody, but can we be the best we can to the most people we can? And looking at programs that what are our cornerstone programs, our tentpole programs that we can't lose, right? And of the other ones, are there ways for us to think about consolidating into a more general, rather be a lumper instead of a splitter, so that we can still get them to their goal without maybe, nobody likes to limit choices, right? But if I can get the student to the same goal by being more streamlined and efficient on the front end with the scheduling I have here, then I still meet that student's need and their objectives. So my commitment is no impact to the students.
Because there'll still be those guaranteed programs for the 2-year degree.
Right, and we still do that.
Following.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if we offer a program, we are committed to offering and scheduling it in a way for students to complete. But we do offer programs that, we may only get one student a year in or whatever. So those are the ones we have to look at, to see, what is the sustainability of things like that. And that'll be some ongoing work that we also plan to do.
I have a
Yeah.
Are you also going to be affected by the rising cost of insurance?
I don't think so. Health insurance, we are in a pool. So I think what we'll see is that because we're in a pool with Oregon Educating Board, Employment Board, it's legislated that those premiums can only increase by, I think it's 3.4 or 3.7% per year, something like that. But what we see is less benefit for the dollar that we get, right? So I think we'll be impacted that way, that what we're able to offer, we're not going to be a dollar that we're going to be able to provide isn't going to be able to provide as much service, but our increases are set. Yeah.
And while those premiums can only go up a certain amount, it doesn't mean those deductibles and out of pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So it impacts employees.
Pay you later,
Right.
health insurance.
Yeah, it won't impact the institution in terms of the dollars that we spend on healthcare. It will impact the employee on what their dollars are that they'll ultimately have to spend, because the plan that we will be able to provide, or that OEB will provide, is not as good. Yeah. And I'm not sure how that, again, I don't know how the Medicaid issues are going to impact that piece.
I have a question sorry.
Yeah, no, well, I just say this again, there's a lot of, that's another uncertainty, right? There's a lot of, there is a huge air of uncertainty around a lot of these things.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
truly. For you and Suzanne, I just want to check my understanding. What I think I know about this budget crisis is that we didn't have it previously based on the revenue that the state receives from the federal government. So I thought that to the extent that I tracked the state budget, that our outlook was good and strong. But there's a significant reduction of revenue the state is going to receive from the federal government, and therefore the cascading effect is that
That's part of it. That's part of it. The tax code is such in Oregon that the federal changes, that federal tax code levels pass through to state tax codes. I'm oversimplifying this because that's just my level of understanding around it. But as a result, there's less tax revenue that will be taken in by the state. So there's going to be a revenue shortfall, right, from what was predicted due to changes at the federal level from House Bill 1. So that's driving a lot of this a reduction in revenue. Is that also the other piece is that if you look at the sectors that are hit the hardest right now in terms of job losses, they're in manufacturing and exporting, which is huge for Oregon, right? So we're seeing less revenue as a result of that. And also our unemployment rate in Oregon is higher than the national average. So all of those things are kind of like wrapped together into one big picture that shows a revenue downturn for the state currently and moving forward, and honestly projected into not only just this biennium, but the next biennium and maybe even the next biennium after that. So we really are looking at, as from a forecast point of view, I would say over the next 6 years, a likelihood of less revenue from a peak of last year in the state of Oregon, right? They're anticipating a decline over the next few biennium. I think that's my understanding, at least, of the fiscal landscape.
And the fact that we've had so many big businesses leave Oregon.
Mm.
And we have to realize that Intel and the folks that deal in chips and in the Willamette Valley, we're providing 49% of our income tax.
Wow, is that right?
And now,
And we're laying off those folks and
By the hundreds.
by the hundreds, and they're leaving the state.
Oh, thank you, Lord.
Plus the tax structure in the valley, especially in Multnomah County, is driving business out of Multnomah County. And so that is also reducing the tax revenue for Multnomah County and for the state of Oregon.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, I think that, that covers the sort of first few challenges. I think, the other piece for us, we are increasing our operational footprint by, probably about 70%, with the addition of the new facility across the way here, coming online with the industrial tech building over here. So that does certainly add, operation and maintenance expenses that it's a more efficient building, but it's still more lights, more water, more whatever, right? So while the bond funded the construction of that facility, it doesn't fund the operation and maintenance of the facility, right? So I think that's something we have to plan for. In addition, the programming that we're putting in there are, they are vital for this community, but from a finance point of view, they're loss leaders, right? In terms of economics, because it's nursing, it's healthcare, they're incredibly expensive programs to run. So actually, if I add more students in those programs, I actually lose more money. So we're really, but I'll say this, that we are seeing record enrollment in courses that are more efficient, that are moneymakers for the college in prerequisites that serve that, right? So it does overall in the big picture, that piece helps our revenue because our enrollments are very strong. We're up about 10% this fall relative to last fall. And we're at the highest FTE we've ever been at last year. So again, we're looking good at serving the community. We're serving populations that we haven't served before. We're committed to continuing to do that. I will not let an economic downturn impact our ability to serve students. We may have to serve them differently, right? And we have to be ready to kind of shift and move around in that way. But I don't see an impact on our students.
And with all of that, still wanting to minimize any increase on fees and tuitions to students, so.
Yeah.
The revenue that would generate would be pretty insignificant.
In general, that's true. Our revenue from tuition and fees is probably about 15% of our general operating budget. So in a dollar increase to students, we try to keep it within, historically, we've tried to keep our tuition and fee increases within the range of what increases in Pell would cover. Of course, there weren't any increases in Pell. So again, the current administration, it's difficult to kind of tell how that might offset it, but we are total cost of tuition. We are the most affordable community college in Oregon for total cost of attendance. And I'm committed to staying in that ballpark, right? We can't pass it on to our student. You can't, there's no way we could pass, we'd have to double tuition to be able to have students absorb the cost, right, of the cuts in order to absorb that. So we're working at that. I still think we'll see strong college going rates. We're going to be working on trying to increase our capture rate from the high schools by being more present out in the high schools. There is obviously, this waning culture around college going, but we're a little bit immune to some of that because we also provide significant career and technical education. And luckily that is we do see some promising changes, at least within the Department of Ed and the stance of the current federal administration around career technical education, which is important because those are some of our most expensive programs to run. So hopefully we'll see some.
So is that an area where board members could help with that? I'd be happy to volunteer to talk to high school students.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, please. Thank you. Yeah. We'll hook you up with the right folks for that, but that is a good opportunity for that there. I'll talk a little bit about what I think are some of our high value opportunities, even amid all of this. I think we have to recognize that in spite of the fact that these are expensive facilities that are coming online, they are growth engines for the community. We can increase our output of trained healthcare workers. We can increase our output of folks that can work in the mills and the creamery and locally. So I think that, we do have to view them as an investment, not an expense. But we do have to pay for them. We'll talk a little bit later with you about some of the work that we're doing with the Rural Guided Pathways Project, which is a national initiative to help rural community colleges work to move students through programs and into living wage jobs, which help community and add to community vibrancy. So we'll chat a little bit about that later, some of the work we're doing around that. I'm an active participant with a group called Excellencia in Education. They are a national group to intentfully design student supports and programming to increase Hispanic and Latinx success in colleges. We have a growing Hispanic Latinx demographic in Tillamook County. The college just this year, so they're as far as minority serving institutions, there is a federally recognized Hispanic serving institution status that still currently exists. To meet that requirement to be designated as an institution, Hispanic serving institution at the federal level by the Department of Ed, you have to have 25% of your enrollment be by Hispanic and Latinx students. We are currently at 30%. This is the first year that we qualify to apply for minority serving institution status. We will do that, assuming that application comes open. While there are benefits that come to that from the standpoint of being eligible for certain federal funds, those federal funds have been removed as of now and redistributed to historically Black serving institutions, which is great. I'm glad that the HBCUs have an increase in funds, but they came from other minority serving institution programs. So I don't know the fate of that program as of yet, but regardless, our commitment to serving our Hispanic Latinx community is still there, and it is a community that we haven't adequately served in the past. So it is an area for enrollment growth for us to be able to make better connections with that community. We did just have, I think Pat was here, we did just have as part of Hispanic Heritage Month, we did just have a cultural appreciation event here on campus where we had, I think, about 200 folks from the community here. We had a mariachi band and taco truck and all. It was phenomenal. It was fun.
The pictures were great. I just started to miss it.
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun. There were no margaritas served, unfortunately. But
200 is outstanding.
yeah, I think we ended up giving out, we had a food truck and we sponsored the food truck. I think we ended up giving out 220 meal tickets or something like that for that. So it was really a lot of fun and a lot of good connections with folks. And I will say that in spite of what's happening, I think nationwide and in the state with regard to ICE and those kinds of things, our Latinx and Hispanic community does feel, I think, as safe as they can feel here with us. We have started some evening ESL classes that are taught by some local Spanish Latinx individuals that are native Spanish speakers, and we have seen our enrollment grow because they feel comfort in that. We are serving where we might have served in the past 2 or 3 in our ESL program a night. We're now seeing 30. So it's intentional changes that we're trying to make to better serve the community, and I think that this is not. It's like. We can talk about whether that's DEI work or whatever. Again, I've said it to you all before, everything we do here is DEI work, and that is not what we are doing to serve our Latinx community is not at the expense of any other member of the community.
Have you noticed a decrease, or is everything's pretty much the same as far as the enrollment of non-English speaking?
So as far as we can tell, I haven't done a deep dive yet for the fall, but as far as I can tell, I think the enrollment's pretty good. What we're seeing from talking to some of my colleagues, and I haven't looked here, is that new students, when they apply, they refuse to designate their ethnicity, right? So,
Good,
well, good and not good, right? I mean, good, I understand it.
Yeah.
Right, but from a standpoint of being able for us, from an operational point of view, know who we're serving to be more intentful
true,
about
yeah.
that. We like to know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we'll try to collect that just anecdotally for us, so that we can be more intentful in our programming around that. But schools are seeing, their Latinx if we were to just look at the numbers, their Latinx population will decrease, but the decline to comment number is increasing. So folks are just declining to comment on their race. And I don't blame people. It's fine.
Right, it makes sense
It makes
because with the big universities, the administration is demanding their student enrollment.
I know, yeah.
Well, I want to say this is also considered a safe space because of the work you've done at the Mexican consulate
Yes,
and hosting those events. So people recognize this as a safe building they can be in and get their needs met without being in danger.
well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
We do hard. I always tell folks it's, I can't guarantee that you're safe here, but I can guarantee I'll do everything I can to keep you as safe as I can, right? And that's just this state of the affairs right now.
Well, I've tabled at some of those for the CCO and we've had people traveling from Salem and all over the place to come here for those events because it's a
Good.
chance to get papers and documentation and take care of business. So this is a trusted place because
Good.
of that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's important to me. I've listed, if you look at the second page here to kind of just move us along, I've listed what I think, are some of the risk, the potential impacts and sort of the kind of primary mitigation that we can take with that. I'll comment on a couple things. We talked about, and this is where I think, Mary Faith, your question about what kind of different messaging are you going to hear from us? If you look at the volatility in state and federal funding, we know that we'll have revenue shortfalls. We won't have a cash flow issue because we have reserves that can get us through times, but we will have delayed reimbursements on federal grants and probably to some extent state grants. We will see some reduction potentially in our ability to offer certain programs. Again, it will be prioritization of programming. I will say that way. We'll look at programs that by, I won't say eliminating programs, but maybe rethinking how we offer them is more to do it in a more efficient way. We will, well, I'm asking the board to sort of direct me to do this in the long run or in the short run is to adopt some budget scenarios. So do some scenario budgeting, looking at, I originally looking at flat -5 and -10, but then again, I realized flats, I can't imagine presenting you with a budget for next year that's flat, given the direction of everything. And the good thing is, right, I would rather plan, not overreact, but plan for what I think are realistic reductions. And then if they don't happen, that's great. Then we have more money we can invest in our employees after the fact. We can always do a supplemental budget if we need to, or something like that. But it's much easier for me to give back than it is to take away in a short amount of time. So we will be looking at some 5, 10, and 15% budget scenarios. Again, if I'm looking at a 10% reduction, that is $1 million a year for this budget, right? Which is that's a lot. That's a lot. That's steep. So we're going to try to phase it in ways that make sense, that impact our employees the least. As we move forward with that, hopefully we will be able to do some cost saving measures this term around or this year around not hiring. So our ending fund balance is greater. That allows us to lessen what we might have to do next year. And I think we can do that. I think we have to look at, increasingly look at any kind of external funding that might help. I'm always nervous about that. Grants I treat them as sort of one-time funds, and we should spend one-time funds on one-time expenses, not on ongoing expenses. And we have had a tendency here to grow. We've been fortunate over the past few years to have had some significant federal funding that has allowed us to grow in personnel. But now we're seeing those personnel come off of these grants and we're having to absorb them in the general fund. For example, last year, we had to absorb, I think, about $250,000 for this current year into the general fund that was previously grant funded, right? And again, being mindful of that piece there. So again, just want to be aware of that. I think that the CIT construction and the HEB construction, while HEB, I don't think will have a significant impact on the general fund as far as construction. I think we're going to be able to, we're a little bit above budget, but we also haven't budgeted all the interest that we earned off of the bonds. So I think we'll be able to absorb most of the increases that we've had there with interest from the bonds. So when it hit the general fund, the remodel of the facility across the street has just cost us way more than anyone I think ever anticipated to begin with. We really don't have a choice but to finish it because we have to be out of the high school. And it's not great space for us in the high school anyhow for these programs. We need to have dedicated space over here for them. But there will be an impact to the general fund, and I'll comment on that in a few minutes around CIT construction. But we'll do the best we can as we look at that there. We'll also do the best we can to support students and increase populations that we haven't been adequately serving. If there is a recession that we move into and unemployment rates go up, we often see people come back to school, but that the challenge there is that we're serving more students with less revenue. So we can absorb some of that obviously because of class sizes aren't full to begin with and things like that. But that does at some point puts a little bit of pressure on us there in terms of enrollment. We can't limit enrollment. It is a law that we take anybody that applies. So we'll manage that as best we can. So that's what we kind of have there for that. You can take a look at this and kind of, get a sense of what might, what the landscape might look like. I am totally open with this board about seeking advice and feedback and direction. So if there are things from again, your point of view, your background, your lens that you think we could do, we have some very successful business folks in this room. I'm totally open to comments and suggestions and again, they're comments and suggestions because you're an advisory and policy board, but I do welcome your directions on some of those things. And I'll tell you from my vantage point, things that I think could work and couldn't work based upon what feedback you might have.
Paul,
Yeah.
I can't remember from the budget how much of our budget is personnel costs. So I'm trying to figure out, you said that a 10% reduction reflects 1 million. And I was trying to do the math to figure out how many full-time positions that is.
So it's a lot, if you were to put it that way. Our budget is roughly, it varies a little bit, but I think right now our general fund, if I just focus on the general fund, our general fund budget is probably about 75% personnel, and that's salaries and benefits and PERS and things like that, right? If we were to pull all of our permanent personnel and part-time and everything off of grants and just say, this is our ongoing commitment to personnel, it's probably in the low 80%. So I would say it's rough to say somewhere between 75 and 80%. And this is the stark realization, right? When you start throwing around percentages and numbers, it becomes very obvious to folks that if we are going to try to, let's say, cut $750,000, or if we use a round number, $1 million, right? And 75% of our expenses are personnel, that's $750,000.
Right.
And the average cost of an employee, salary and benefits for an average employee, is probably about $90,000.
Okay. Yeah, that's about what I was thinking, but I was also thinking about what level of vacancy the college carries,
Yeah.
like the county carries an average level of vacancy currently at 10%, but it's been higher, like during COVID, it was considerably higher. So that vacancy
Yeah.
represents a lot of savings.
Yeah, we have four open positions right now. And that aren't in recruitment and I won't put in recruitment just because I think we can do what we need to do without moving forward with them. Some of those departments might argue otherwise, right? Of course, because of what it is, but I think that's the right thing to do at this point, right? Unless they were positions that you just have to have, right? Is to keep vacant positions open while we figure out the landscape, and we'll do that. I haven't made, all this has happened, just really within the past couple of weeks in terms of the realization of what we're going to have to do. I do have a meeting planned with the campus on Friday of this week, where I'll probably talk a little bit about this at a high level again, because I don't feel it's fair not to, and I would rather be in front of that conversation than have it swirling, which it already is, and then I'll have a more full kind of budget forum type thing where maybe we can work out some strategies a little bit in a couple of weeks where I can kind of lay out what our sort of framework would be to start looking at where we might be able to make reductions in current year. And then what that might look like as we start developing the budget for next year. Because you have to realize, right, I mean, we're starting to develop the budget right now for next year.
Right.
Because we have to present it, we usually present it in March or April, right? We haven't done it. So we're working at that right now.
So are you also taking into consideration the increase in PERS? I know PERS is a sore subject
It is.
and it's rising rapidly. Could make quite an impact.
We do. I don't know what our PERS rate is for next year yet, although I do know our PERS is increasing and our PERS is pretty heavy right now. And also heavy for us because we are pretty fully staffed right now. So that really adds up. And even though we bought into PERS stabilization bonds years ago, we have more personnel now than we had when we bought in. So we're spending down our portion a lot faster, so we may run out soon from the stabilization fund. So we are looking at that too. And that had to be a piece of the equation. I look at that more of there's a dealing with the next year or two, but we also, I think I really want a 5-year plan where I can look at those cost escalations and really get a sense of what that might look like in the long run too.
How many teaching volunteers does the college have?
We have no teaching volunteers.
So that's something you could think about.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people in the community that have a lot of expertise.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably pursue that. We are not unionized here, so that doesn't pose an issue. Although, I mean, there are sort of bully implications about using volunteers in positions that are otherwise paid positions.
Right.
So I would want to make sure legally I'm not stepping in anything which I potentially could, because I would be.
Like a new program or something that was not currently.
Yeah, I think I would be difficult to displace somebody without having.
Oh, sure, but how about empty positions?
Yeah,
Open vacancies would be, I don't know.
I don't know, I'll explore it.
We are a community college, so that could be,
Yeah.
community level can happen.
My gut tells me Boley would have something to say about that.
Only we have something to say about that.
Yeah. But I appreciate it, but we can use for like tutoring and things like that, apart from teaching, we can use for that. So I think those are things we could potentially explore as well.
And maybe enrichment course.
And enrichment things, yeah, like that, yeah. I'll look into it and I appreciate it. Thank you. If you don't mind, I would like I included, it's rather lengthy. I think it's 13 pages long, but I did mostly for the new board members, I included my self-evaluation. This is not comments from the board on my evaluation last year. Rather, this is my reflection on the work I had done over the past year at the college. I wanted to point out a few things. You'll see I've got a few things highlighted on here. I'm not going to spend time going over this, but I wanted you to have it so that you could read, so you get a picture of what the college has been doing over the past year and a half, right? And because it does kind of frame where we're moving into next year, which is, again, we've got 4 new board members, and I thought this might be important. I'll point out, I just want to walk through this and point out a few things where I've got some boxes on the side, right? Just to kind of give some updates of changes at the college. We had a CFO, we have had a difficult time having a chief financial officer here at the college for years. We had a CFO that was an employee with us for about 16 months or so. And she really helped, Sherry Montazeri, she really helped get us on track and get the business office in a good operational space. She took a different position in Portland. And so she left us over the summer, and we brought in our senior accountant, Dave Souls, who has been with us for almost a year now, into that position as an interim CFO. We are currently not going to backfill his position. He's operating fine now that we're kind of up to speed and we've got good business practices in place. So we've got that one on hold, and I feel good that he can keep us operationally moving forward. And that office seems to be in a pretty good place right now. We were going to recruit an audiovisual support specialist, primarily to help support the community center that we're bringing on over there as an enterprise operation. We put that on hold as well. We are in the middle of starting the conversation around putting together a business plan around the community space and the community center and how we're going to operate that so that it doesn't take resources away from our primary mission, although part of our mission certainly is serving the community. We got to make sure that that's not at the expense of serving our students. We did hire 2 new full-time faculty, a replacement position, Jackson Shoemaker in math. And then we hired another full-time nursing faculty member, Sean Slover. So we have 2 full-time nursing faculty members now supporting the program that has 2 cohorts of students running around the clock now. We've hired a dean. We've got Michael Weisenflue, who many of you know as a longtime faculty member here, serving as an interim vice president for us. We have restructured that vice president position to a vice president of student learning and academic affairs, and we're currently in the process of selecting to interview for that permanent position there. So I feel good about that. We had a very strong pool of candidates, over 50 applications for that position. We are part of an education consortium countywide with the 3 school districts in the county. We are working to unify career technical education in the county across the college and the school districts. The consortium had funded an executive director to lead some of that work. She has resigned, and that position now is grant funded by a grant that Nestucca Valley School District has, but we're still kind of moving some of that work forward. Again, you can at your leisure read through some of these other things this work that pretty much has been completed for the most part last year. Some of it's still ongoing. We had an ambitious goal of redoing all of our board policies and administrative rules by the end of this academic year. Some other priorities obviously have come up with trying to address some of the issues that we just chatted about. We'll still move that work forward as we can with the restructuring of those board policies and administrative rules. Lori's doing a great job of keeping us organized in that, but I might have been a little bit optimistic about how much we could get done, considering how long it takes to work their way through the process. But my mantra this year, rather than completion, is progress necessarily. So we'll keep working on that. One of the things that we started actually, and it was not, I think it'll be perceived maybe as a reduction in force exercise, although that wasn't the intention when we started it, was to really look at to do a human resource assessment for the college because we have grown so quickly, but yet now we're expanding into different operational spaces to make sure that we do have staffing adequately distributed across departments. And that the work that those staff are doing is equitable work, right? So we don't have, because we've grown in, I'll give you an example, we've grown in the health sciences so much, we have so much more work on our health science coordinator and staffing now than we had before. Is that equitable, right? And because Now, that person has a much more responsibility than someone else with a similar title, because we've grown in those areas. So that's some work that we're doing. That for the most part will be outsourced work. We're working with an agency to do that. I think that will help us in the long run. Again, not identify positions to cut, but identify positions that we can redistribute workload, maybe combine some work so that we're better serving the campus without hiring additional folks, right? That sort of redistribution in that way there. So that'll involve some, again, challenging work, difficult work with our employees. But I think important, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure we have the right folks in the right job. So they're doing equitable work and they're being compensated fairly, right? And so that's kind of the goal of that. So when that work is done, the next phase of that, we'll be able to do not a compensation study I mentioned there, but a classification study. We want to make sure that like work is classified in like manner there. And Pat, having served in HR, you know how challenging this is probably going to be for us. We have about 65 or so full-time employees that are permanent employees. Some of them aren't full-time that we'll have to do this work with. So it's going to take some time. But yeah, progress is the important goal there.
And I think you said you were gonna contract some of this, or
We have to.
someone.
Yeah, we have to, I think for a number of reasons. We don't have the internal bandwidth, but I also feel like I want it to be not perceived as there's an end goal in mind, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you want it perceived as.
We want it perceived as objective, yeah. And I certainly want it to be objective,
Yeah.
right? And I wouldn't do anything intentionally, but we all have our, these unintentional biases come out whether we want them to or not sometimes, so. Yeah. So that piece is going on. You can see some other things there. Again, I encourage you, if you're new, to kind of just read through it at your leisure. But you have a hard time sleeping at night, it might bore you to death. But it's kind of fun there. Let's look.
Thank you for doing this. This is outstanding and for all of us to have, on a few pages,
Yeah.
the scope of
Yeah.
your work.
Right.
And because we all know you're doing a lot,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
don't have all of this stuff in our heads.
Right.
And so it's very educational for us. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And
Exactly what I was thinking.
once we agree on sort of, or I share with you at least what I feel should be my goals for next year, I'll create a similar document. We'll do a tracking, and I can actually probably give that to you sort of regularly as an update, right? And these are the progress we've made or whatever, which I think will be important over the next year.
Just to echo what Mary Faye said, I mean, it's not only for new people, but I think everybody
Yeah.
needs to just go through this.
Certainly, yeah, I appreciate that. So if you could look at page 6, this is something if you remember when you all hired me, well, 3 of you hired me. I told you that I had 2 real primary goals for my first year or 15 months. One of them was to make sure that we can operate as a business, right? And I feel pretty good that we've gotten to that point. There's still work we need to do in terms of having all of those kind of administrative things in place and refined so that they're more efficient, but we are in a much, much better place now than we are before, we were, when I started. So I feel very good about that. And again, I didn't do it. I just created the expectation for folks that could do it to do the work. And I do feel good about where we are with that. The other piece that was really important for me, and this is something where I feel I have a strong suit from my teaching days and things like that, was to really work on creating a culture here of support for each other, respect for each other, and there's still work to do, but to really work on culture on campus. And I feel like we've made some grounds there. I put some key metrics there just to kind of give you a sense of how campus is feeling, at least. Again, I'll comment on this in a minute, but this was as of June, right? So we're entering a sort of different climate, and they're going to hear different messages from me, and I'm sure some opinions might change of my leadership at that point. I mean, it just is what it is, right? But at least as of June, I think and through the summer, and I think right now, we're in a pretty good place campus climate culture wise, right? If you look at the numbers there, And Aaron will talk a little bit more about some of these this afternoon. And we're 91% feel the president's a strong and effective leader. 92% feel they receive timely, accurate, relevant information. Little drop in the president's leadership aligning with the mission and vision of the college there. But again, I view that as pretty strong. And the other piece that we've been trying to create is not just the campus's view of me, but of leadership team in general. And you can see we've increased that view from roughly about 60% to about 75%. So I feel we're moving in a good direction. The other thing that you feel good, we've had this net promoter score, which basically rank on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely you are to recommend TBCC as a place of employment, right? And you throw out the 7s and 8s, the 9s and 10s are promoters, and then the 0 through 6s are detractors. And then you subtract, right, the detractors from the promoters. We were in the negative number 2 years ago, -2. We went to +4 last year, and this year we're at +37. Which is considered in the green zone, right? So part of that is that, I have to be a little transparent here, right? Part of that is we have a lot of new employees, right? So they might not, people that might have had a beef don't have a beef because they don't work here anymore, right? Or we have new employees. So there's that piece, right? So I mean, it's only a number, but it is at least tracking in the right direction that I think, and this is, the reason I put this in here was because the culture and morale will take a hit over the next year, right? I mean, we can't be naive. It will, right? There's no doubt about it because we're going to be, not we, I mean, the economy, right, is going to not be as favorable. We are probably not going to be able to provide the same level of increases maybe that we provided in the past. And our employees are going to feel that, right? Whether it's our fault directly or not, they're going to feel that. They spend, I mean, you all know this, and as an employee, you spend most of your waking hours at this place. And so if there's something that whether it's rational or not, it's a convenient thing to blame for issues that you might be feeling, right? And so I get all of that, but I do feel, at least, I think we're starting in a pretty good place of trust in the institution and me to be able to work our way through this. But I'm not naive again, and it's not a popularity contest for me either, but we will see we will likely see these numbers downturn. And that just is what it is, right? But I pointed it out to say, at least I think we're starting in a good place to begin to have some of these more challenging conversations over the next several months.
I appreciate what you just said about trust, because a couple of years ago, when the net promoter score was -2, that was, these things are, surveys are just numbers, yes, but they're also reflections of how people feel in the moment. And there was a lack of trust in the organization, and some of it was founded. We were in a mess with the financial system. There were significant things that people were upset about, and so you have done a phenomenal job of improving the culture in 2 years. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
And not only the culture, but also the organization, stabilizing the organization. And so if we move into a recession, which looks like it's likely at this point, if we move into that, it will be reassuring to people to trust their leadership and to trust that the organization is moving and is stable in whatever new form, that if we moved into a recession and people had no faith in the organization, it would be a disaster. But in this culture, we can move into it. I anticipate that we will move into it with a sense like we're all in this together. We'll get through it. We'll keep taking care of students. We'll serve our mission, and we're going to come out okay.
And I think in the past yes, thank you for saying that. And I think that's generally true, right?
And transparency is a big deal.
I think that, it's just who I am as an individual. I mean, I have been in this business my adult life. I've been teaching and in the higher education since I was 22 years old, right? I mean, that's my life, right? And I believe in it so much, especially at the community college level. And I believe in, a place where we work trying, this is why I came here, right? And I left a larger institution is that I want that feeling of community, right? And so that's what I've been trying to create. And I think that will help weather some of these things because I do think at the end of the day, we have employees that also believe in the mission and want to work together and understand the value of working together. So we'll keep plugging away at that one. So thank you.
On that note, have you heard any rumblings, about people being afraid of losing their jobs?
I haven't, but I'm sure they're out there. And only because, you know, we when we had our fall conference, I painted a slightly, not dire, but a picture that moving forward, I think financially, we're going to be looking at some downturns. And then in the same week, I talked about, you know, the staffing analysis, HR analyses that we're doing. So I think there might be a little bit of fear out there. I hope to try to address some of that. I got said this later this week, I'll be meeting with folks and I want to do it in person rather than an email.
Okay. Trying to keep in mind that the discussion and the work on the staffing analysis started months and months before any of this budget information came out.
And
But-
we actually started the initial work around salary analysis, whatever, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this is kind of continuation around that, but you're right.
But you're not gonna separate the two.
You won't,
Yes.
you won't. And so, let's see, let's just talk a little bit about, I'm gonna move us along here. If you could go to page 10 of this, and I just updated the numbers, had Dave update the numbers from me yesterday, so I wanna pull out, some of this, and I can update this to you all in a formal document, but if you look at page 10 of this, that's this page here that has some dollars and cents on it. I'm looking at this page here. If you take a look at that graph, there are several accounts that we have, but these four that I've got listed here are what I consider to be our reserves, right? They're money that's undesignated that we could pull out of these accounts to use for any number of things that we had to, right? There's capital depreciation. And you can see we've over the past few years had roughly $1 million in there. Timber tax reserves, this is our savings account, if you will, that we've been able year over year to be able to build up there, around $5 million in that. PRI capital maintenance is just a fund that we have that for deferred maintenance on the PRI building. And then lastly, we maintain a strategic initiative fund that I could pull out of to if there was a new program we wanted to start or something like that. This is our savings account for that. So we've been, as of January 31st, when I pulled this for our review that we did with me last time, we had 7.6 million in what I consider total reserves. As of date today, this is of September, as of September 30, we have $8,082,000 in there. So we're a little over 8 million. And the reason for the increase for the most part is because we haven't had to use any of it for operational expenses. Part of that is because we've not been fully staffed with things and we've kept positions open. I will say though that, so we're sitting right at about, let's say 8.1 million. That's 80% reserves of our general fund operating budget. That is unheard of, right? I mean, it's unheard of. Most colleges I've been at, if you had 20%, thought you were in good shape, and most of them managed right around 10%. I'm not recommending that by any means, right? I'm just giving you a sense of and this is where a lot of the message has come from, that the college is sound, is because of this, right? Now, remember, many of you were on the board. A lot of this savings was for a purpose. For years, the college has been saving for capital improvements, knowing that we were going to have a bond funded, or we did get a bond funded building here, but there sometimes might be cost overruns on that, and that this would have done that. We purchased the Mechatronics facility across the street to remodel for a Center for Industrial Technologies. There was money in here saved for that. We also had anticipated, once the move occurred from here to the new facility, that we would reimagine this space and that there would be funds for remodeling of this space. And just having reserves, because you never know what's going to happen. I think rainy day, for lack of a better way to describe it. We did budget in current year, this current year budget, 1.8 million out of these reserves to capital projects. 800,000 for the CIT across the street and $1 million to remodel this facility. That would put our reserves at let's say roughly 6.3 million, which again is pretty healthy. In the budget also was about $500,000 in transfers from the strategic fund to support operational expenses. This again is a realization for me as I've lived with these, I come from an instructional world, right? I'm a biologist by training. So as I'm learning to live with this, I mean, we have been, so that is budgeting a structural deficit, right? By transferring funds for operational expenses from your savings account. We have been doing that for years. We haven't had to make that transfer. Hence our account has stayed pretty high, right? But we had been doing that budgeting for years. We just never had to make those transfers. So all said and done, if we were to make those transfers, spend out the 1.8 million, we're looking at 5.8 million in reserves, which would be budgeted, should be actual roughly as of June 30, 2026, right? I'm recommending we don't do some of this. And we'll talk about that later. That'll have to be in a more business session where we talk about that, and I'll present some sort of what I will probably do to you with you all is present some what I'll consider mid-year corrections that will do. Won't impact our budget at all. We'll just make a decision that we're going to postpone remodeling this facility, for example, which is what I would recommend we do. It's a beautiful facility. It's in great shape. There are going to be some expectations I'll have to manage around our employees around, you're building this nice big thing over there, but you leave us with whatever, but come on, it's a beautiful facility. I might recommend that we set aside, instead of $1 million, a couple $100,000 that might make a big difference if operationally right. But I don't know, that might not even come this year because we need to invest, look at what those changes would be. So we'll talk about that because I think in this environment, especially looking at over the next couple biennia, I want to protect this as much as we can. Because there might be a time where to meet mission critical operational expenses, we might need our savings account to do that. We're not there, but we might need that at some point.
Thank you. I was thinking about Mary and I were both recruited by Connie Green.
Mm-hmm.
Were you here when Connie was president or Rob?
I came just after she left and Ross stepped in.
Yes, so I was thinking about how in Connie's leadership, her value was to not spend the timber tax reserve because she'd been a college president through the recession.
Yeah.
And so she'd been through painful cutting situations.
Right.
And so her value was to not budget the timber tax reserve and save it for when we need it. And maybe that was John Carnahan. Maybe it started a long time ago, but we all owe a debt of gratitude to whoever started not budgeting the timber tax reserve. I wish the county were in that position, but we're not. But it would be so great if we were. And so that's a huge advantage to our college. And I'm not saying never use it, but I would not use it to remodel this building because I don't think it's necessary. I
agree. And it's a priority proposition, right? I mean, do you value human resources or do you value, a new wall or something like that, right? And I also feel that we also have to, I mean, again, I'll take the board's direction, but, I think we also have to be careful about, as we work our way through this, asking ourselves the question, again, I view these as one-time monies, right? And what is the comfort level of the board? I'm not asking, this is a rhetorical right now, but what is the comfort level of the board in using one-time revenue or savings on ongoing personnel expenses, right? I think that there's a conversation we have to have first about what is the right size that I think, or that the college thinks we need to be able to deliver our mission. I think that question needs to be addressed first before we start talking about using our reserves on ongoing expenses. Because we'll hear that, right? We'll hear we're valuing buildings over people. I can't spend that money on people. That's bond money that I can only spend on that building, right? As much as I might like to, right? Value engineer, and I can't, right? Legally, I can't. And so I think we're gonna have to think about that. So my goal is to work with our leadership team on, and the campus community through input and feedback as we do this, on presenting, what would be a sort of interim plan to try to address some issues current year, right? And some of that would involve not having keeping positions open, not doing some of the transfers we've scheduled to do, and seeing what impact that might have. And then we'll look at a budget scenario for next year that looks at some of these more deeper cuts and what that might look like in the long run as well to meet some of those goals. It won't, I mean, yeah, it is not enjoyable work by any means, but it's necessary work, and I will tell you, many of you have worked with me for a while. You probably know me. I'm a human being at heart. I like humanity. I love people. I like conversations. I feel very close to every single employee we have, very close. And it's not like we go out to dinner or whatever, but this is my family. I spend more time with these than I do with my wife and my dog. Unless I said my wife first, but so it's hard at a personal institution like this, but it's also why we love to work at an institution like this. But it does make this work hard. Because they're not job titles.
Right. Yeah. But maybe, I could be overly hopeful, but maybe not filling the current
Correct.
positions and then not filling future positions
Yes.
by attrition rather than laying people off now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
maybe the
the hope
slow
for sure.
roll will,
Yeah. And that's the hope, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Shifting people around is necessary to fill
Yeah.
critical needs without,
I think that's definitely the approach. Yeah. So,
I think Ross continued along too, with Connie's
he did.
more careful dealing with the budget as well.
Yeah, I always
When
said
you came in, things were,
I always said they saved all this money so I can spend it, but I mean.
he was less conservative than Connie, so there were degrees, but it wasn't, I mean, still, he was totally fiscally responsible.
Yeah, and I think she also kind of came up through the ranks from the administrative services side of the house too. So I think she was a little bit more sort of CFO minded. I think, didn't she come from that?
I didn't remember that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So anyhow, so that's current kind of resources. So again, I feel good about that. Lastly, if you'll bear with me and just look at page 12. Probably not good, but if you look at page 12, I just want to update you on a few things here. The health education building across the bay, slight budget overruns due to some stormwater issues that we're having and repairs, installation work that we have to do there. But as I mentioned before, I think the interest on our LGIP account should be able to cover that. So I'm not too worried about that. The fairgrounds project, the FEMA fairground, is nearly complete. I think we're hooked up. They've been working all along. There's still a big dirt pile out there, but I'm real excited that project has moved forward. That will help mitigate some stormwater issues for us, which is really good. And lastly, the CIT project across the street. I would call it at a crawl before due to some EDA issues. We did abandon the EDA grant because of the delays in being able to get the project complete with the EDA grant were just too insurmountable. I think it was a $500,000 matching grant. And I think we would have seen that in just, if we would have delayed, we would have spent more than $500,000 in the long run with the delays.
Excuse me, I'm
Yes.
sorry, what's EDA?
I'm sorry, Economic Development Agency, federal agency. They had told us that it could be 2 years before we even get plans reviewed to be able to move forward. So that's one of the reasons we abandoned that. I will say though, that this is this project, the facility is going to be beautiful when it's done. We value engineering and are continuing to value engineer it as much as we can. The cost estimates to renovate that facility when it was first purchased, and again, this was in 2019, 2020, so pre-COVID, I think we're at about $750,000. We awarded the contract that was $1.65 million to do it, so it is costing us a lot of money. Like I said, it'll be worth it, but I wish that yeah, I wish it would have gone a little bit differently, but it is what it is. And again, it'll be beautiful when it's done. And at the end of the day, we'll have a beautiful campus here that you can see buildings tied together between PRI, CIT, this building and our new facility across the way. And it'll be quite an improvement for the college and the community.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The CIT, that's gonna be like trades programs, right?
Yep, welding, manufacturing, our electrical apprenticeship programs in there. We're going to, we have some grant funding to buy some advanced manufacturing robotics equipment, which is important for this area. There isn't a training program in the county for that, and a lot of robotics in food and beverage manufacturing and fast food products. So we think that there'll be some opportunities to provide some training for the community around that.
I'm really excited about that because when we home grow medical professionals and our tradespeople, those are people that don't graduate, move away and never come back.
Mhm.
And it's growing the community, and I think it will have a positive impact on
Good, yeah,
college.
good, thank you. Yeah, I feel good about it, and it will help us. We've had a hard time recruiting out of the high school because it's just across the street from the high school, and they don't feel like they're going anywhere different, right? So they'll be able to go to new space, different equipment, and feel like they're growing instead of just continuing with something.
So will the robotics have agricultural robotics in there? So it's a big thing going on in agriculture.
So agriculture, in what regard are you talking about, like
Milking
milking?
machines,
Yeah.
tractors, fertilizing,
Yeah,
all that stuff uses robotics.
yeah, and the foundational work is the same for all of that.
Okay.
So our goal would be to build a broad program, like a year program that would be able to branch off into those different areas. Certainly food and beverage is slightly different than wood products, which is different than agriculture, but the basic programming that occurs around that and the maintenance of those machines is real simple.
Are we still doing the truck driving
We are,
program?
yeah, and it's a very successful program.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. I haven't heard much about it, like I said, still.
It still is,
Out of it.
yeah, still is. I mean, we graduate anywhere from 25 to 30 folks a year with
Great.
CDL license. And it's a good job in the county
Right.
and a continual need.
Right.
Is the foundation working on any fundraising for that particular project?
No. We haven't done, the foundation hasn't done a capital campaign. To my knowledge, since the PRI bill, it's been a while, but we have had, actually, the Creamery reached out to us and said, oh, let us know how we can help. So we know that there's probably, and I should say the commitments from folks are maturing from the PRI building. So people probably open to continuing some support in some regards there. Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Well.
Can't hurt. Yeah. again, the issues are that not so much that we've been able to get grants for equipment and things like that. It's the facility itself that's the construction piece that's challenging for us.
Maybe the creamery could come up with
Could be.
the replacement of that EDA grant.
Yeah, could be, yeah. I have a meeting scheduled with, the creamery, I think next week. There, so that'll be the topic of that conversation, and Britta's going with me to that, so. All right, so in the interest of time, let's see, how would you like to proceed? I think there are a couple things we could do. Any questions about things so far? I would suggest we skip, you can review for yourself your board goals. How about that? You can, your board goals from the standpoint of the goals you had last year and your progress on them. So I don't think I need to spend much time on that. I do think there are two pieces that we should probably get some feedback on. One of them for sure is the board goals for 25-26. You are scheduled to vote on these. So that's this one here.
Right-hand side.
And on the right-hand side, yeah, thank you. You're scheduled to vote on those. I think there are 3 pages. You're scheduled to vote on board goals and approving your board goals next month. So if we look at the kind of dark blue one here, there's 3 pages. On the right side says TBCC board goals 25-26. Okay. I pretty much rolled over last year's goals with a couple changes. I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of briefly go over these with you right now. And then, if you think between now and next Monday, when we have a board meeting, there's something significant you would like to change, we can change it at the board meeting, right? Because that's when you'll ultimately have the discussion around these and the approval of them. So any additions or substitutions, whatever, you can certainly change at the board meeting. So if you want to look at it, again, they're similar to what I put out there before. The first goal would be to be a highly effective Board of Education. We do have 4 new board members, and I did have a conversation with Mary Faith and Betsy about creating a board member onboarding process. And so I think that would be something reasonable that we could do to support the new board members and current board members. So I have that on there. And the rest of it is just standard things. If there is board training, that OCCA, which is our Oregon Community College Association, there are lobbying groups, for lack of a better way to say it, at the state. They often they have a conference, they do training. I think some of you are coming to the conference next month with us. So I think that's good. And we just, if you're interested, we let you know when things are. And if you're interested, just tell us when we go. I think that, I certainly want your support in supporting my work, right? And I would trust that if I wasn't doing something that you felt was in the right direction of the board or the college, you would let me know. And again, that's just a conversation thing. I think just for the new board members, the way that I think it's helpful that we interact. We have a board chair and a co-chair. I prefer, if there's direct communication you want from me, I would prefer that it come through Mary Faith as direct communication. Sometimes I'm also fine if Mary Faith's fine otherwise. I just don't want to get outside of what's good for the entire unit of a board, right? I know that I don't worry about our board, honestly. I'm without question the best board in the state. But some boards do that, going around the chair to manipulate and make things happen. I will let you know if you do come to me. I'll let Mary Faith know that, Romy reached out to me and asked this question and whatever. I just think that's respectful that we do it that way. And my communication to you for the most part will come through Mary Faith, or she will know what I'm communicating, because I want the board to operate as a whole. And I think that's really important.
I appreciate that. And, we've never talked about that before, so I appreciate you bringing it up. And if it's okay with you, what I think could be effective is if people have something for you that they could just email both of us. Yeah, just so I'm in the loop.
That you're in the loop. I think that's perfect. Okay. That's a good solution, because we are a much more, I don't want to create formality that we don't need to have, right? And we we have a good trusting board. And so I hope that will continue. So we can review that goal one. I think that's pretty straightforward. You are a policy board, so we always have as a goal that we review policies in a timely manner, and that we convert them. We are in the process of converting over to a library that was put together by the Oregon Community College Association. The nice thing about that is that they update all the legal requirements for policies on an annual basis or when things change. And so we're in the process of moving from a homegrown kind of language to more standard language. But we have probably over 100 board policies and 150 administrative rules that we're trying to get through. And I think to date, we've probably gone through about 40 board policies maybe, but we have numerous more to go through. And again, while this is a priority for me, there's a lot of other kind of important work that I think, we'll do the best we can at continuing down this road, but I don't think we'll have to speak by the end of the year as much as I would like to. Don't you think, Lori, that'd be challenging? There's a lot of them still hanging out there.
Yeah.
And Lori wrangles the cats on this one to try to get them through this, because it is a lengthy process to get through, so. But in the meantime, I will assure the board that we do have we will have, regardless of this, all the policies in place that we need to have in place from a legal point of view, regardless, right? It's just that the language might be a little bit different than what OCCA. And again, we always, prior to, we have an equity lens that many of you have been trained on here, that we review policies and procedures by, for the most part, and before a board policy gets to you, it has gone through my review, leadership team review. If it is something that we feel might have the need to have some more formal DEI kind of review, we have a DEI committee that will review it, then college council gets it before you even see it, right? So it's been through a lot of that, and since we're adopting the OCCA policy, they review it for legal and DEI issues that might be there. Usually the only DEI issues that we worry about, we try to use gender inclusive language for the most part. That's really about it. We just make sure we don't use he's and she's and things like that. We try to just have it be as gender inclusive as we can. Goal 3, support innovative programming. We will be providing throughout the year regular updates about new programs and current programs, services that we offer. We'll give you reports on certain key metrics for different programs that we review. You'll see a little bit later, a couple big issues that we know are coming for us moving forward. At the state level, we have to do some developmental education reform to get students through college level math and writing a little bit more quickly and effectively. And we'll be looking at, and we'll talk a little bit more about this after lunch, some initiatives with rural guided pathways that we're trying to apply best practices in rural settings to help support rural students. But most importantly, and this is a big focus of mine moving forward on the programmatic point of view, is I really want, and I'll work with the board over the next year, since one of our pushes is to align our programming with successful transfer or living wage jobs in the county. So we're going to be using a lot of labor data and wage data to inform our direction in programs. One of the commitments that I'm making to our students when they come in is that TBCC will not graduate students into poverty. I cannot feel good about a student getting in debt for a program here with us that gives them nothing more than they had when they had a high school diploma. So we're going to be doing some work along those lines moving forward.
That's such a strong goal. I've never heard it put that way.
Yeah.
It's great.
Love that.
Yeah. So
They're
we,
going,
I mean, it makes sense, right?
It
But I mean,
does.
think about it. There are a lot of programs. We're actually in a pretty good place. We don't have a lot of them anyhow, but there are a lot of institutions that have programs that students spend a lot of time and money on, and it gets them nothing. So we're going to be really mindful about that. And when we align our programming, we're gonna align our programming to this, and we're going to work with aligning it better with our area high schools so they can clearly see that career ladder, that career trajectory, that living wage job. It's challenging to define what that means in Tillamook, Oregon, right? A living wage job. I will tell you that the average, the median income in Tillamook County is $48,800 a year. We have a cost of living that's higher than the national average, right? So that would, in order to meet that national sort of living wage kind of thing, if that's your definition, you'd have to be above that. But I also will tell you that if you're a family of four and what's considered living wage in Oregon and the household income for a family of four is probably closer to $90,000 a year for household income. So it's again, we're going to be looking at those things. We can't say, I mean, that's our commitment, right? So we're going to really work on them. So you'll hear a lot about that moving forward. Again, the support of the building construction projects, and that's fine. Increasing engagement with community and local school districts. We've talked about that before. I encourage that. If I could focus on one thing, the item priority or goal number 6, employee experience and organizational health. Again, we will present you with monthly financial reports. Understand them, review them. You have to approve them. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Our goal is to provide you with all the information you need to be the financial stewards of this college. I will, if you don't understand how we're funded, I'm more than happy to meet with you individually or in a small group to give a sort of primer on Community College 101, budgeting 101, those kinds of things. More than happy to do that, Roman.
So on 6C, you're talking about 3 scenario.
Yeah.
Are you leaning toward one of those 3 scenarios preemptively as you move forward?
This will be 26, 27. What I'll do probably is present, I don't know what I'm leaning towards right now. I'll tell you
Okay.
this, I don't think 5% is enough. I don't think I can do minus 15% 1 year. I just don't think I can without an impact in the college. What I'll do is I'll present, my goal is to be able to present to, I'll have to discuss whether we present this to the board prior to a budget forum or we present it to the budget committee or we present it to the budget committee. I would rather present it to the board and then develop a budget that we present to the budget committee, but that means I have to be out in front of this. So probably by February, I would be looking at presenting with you all with some budget scenarios that are in that -5, -10 to -15 kind of range. And then I'll give you a recommendation that I think is what I feel like we should do.
Sorry, Dave,
That's
I
okay.
have to go get lunch, so
Okay.
could you stop the recording and note the time?
Yes.
When you stop it, and then I will restart a new one after lunch.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay,
Will
thank you.
one or all of you remind me to do that?
Yes.
Makes the lead, I have.
We all will.
So that's the scenario, the budget scenario, and that's how I see the process kind of unfolding around that. And I will, this won't be a secret, this won't be a surprise to the college community that we're doing this. Again, I'm rolling this out over the next couple of weeks, and this is something we're doing. And if it's in this document, then in some ways, not that I need it because I'll do it anyhow, but that gives me a little bit of cover that I'm doing this at the direction of the board as well, right? And if you think that's not a good idea, tell me now, but I think it would be, I think it's some work we have to do.
Ignorance doesn't do us any good, so I don't know what it might look like.
Yeah.
I have to know what it might look like.
Okay. So those are your goals. Again, you all can look at this. You can edit these. If there's things you want to wordsmith, take away, add, or whatever, we'll just work through it. But these will be, I will present this. I mean, if you let me know before, we're publishing the packet. Well, we already published the packet. This will be brought in as a document to you all at the board meeting next week. If there are changes you want me to make before then, before I bring it, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, we can wordsmith it there and ultimately you'll approve something at that point.
Do the veteran board members see this just roll forward like it is, or?
Well, yeah, I had a question. I mean, is this similar to last year's?
Yeah. Yeah, very similar.
Oh,
You can see if you compare it to the one that I gave you that showed your progress on last year, it's
Yeah.
very similar to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
There's a
yeah.
couple subtleties,
Oh, that's right. You just gave us one.
Yeah, the subtleties are around the finances, right? And looking at that, I mean, you've always been fiscally responsible for the college, but I did call out, I specifically called out the scenario budgeting as a goal. And it doesn't have to be on your goals necessarily. I do have it, as you'll see, on my goals and objectives, and that's fine if you want to just have it on mine, but I want your support in doing that work, that it's your expectation that I present that to you.
So it's our responsibility to go through these and write a yes or no. On an individual basis?
Oh, no. This is just my working document. At the end of 2026, I will go through and tell you whether you've done this or not.
It's accomplished.
Yeah, the only thing you're looking at right now is this first column.
I'm thinking that we need to do some work.
Yeah, no. You see, I'll do like this one.
You do all the work.
I do the work for you on that. Yes.
Great.
The things, I like all the goals and I appreciate the financial goals. And agree with them. The things I think I would like to discuss, at least for a minute, is the things we did not accomplish and why, and if we still want to attend. So under goal 1B, it says attend OCCA board training and report out at a regularly scheduled board meeting. I'm just surprised that we didn't do that all year because Betsy always goes to us.
Yeah.
So
I thought I went and reported out about it, but maybe.
you did, but that was actually last year. This board training, I don't worry about, so this board training, here actually happened last month.
Well, I didn't go to that.
Yeah, we had some new board members that weren't board members at that point yet,
Right.
right? And the existing board members we had couldn't go. I know Pat had an issue and whatever, so we didn't have anybody go for that. So that's no. Now, I think probably the better fix for this. So they do this annual thing in September, and it's really challenging because it's like right after Labor Day and people are vacationing and things like that. I think I'll think about maybe it's not attend OCCA board training, but maybe it's have board training, right? Or somehow we can have board training, because I can bring in somebody to do board training for an hour before a board meeting or something like that, right? That might be a better way to have that board training rather than
That
calling
would
this out
be
specifically.
So much better. I mean,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, because it would be more specific to the college also.
And we would know we were together.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what they do is fantastic. It does cover the whole, what you're expected to do as a board member, and then you're able to interact with other board members. I mean,
So how about we just receive board training or something like that? I can, and it's really kind of merging 1A and 1B. It's like, we want to have a good new board member onboarding process, but we also want to have adequate board member training.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
Do we also have training in ethics?
You are required to have training in, I don't know if it's in ethics or there's a law.
Yeah, public meeting.
Public meeting ethics, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something that needs to be included in this?
That's a good point. Yeah, because, and that's a new recent legislation as well. I'll get it.
Have you had that as a legislator yet?
Oh, yeah, I do it every session. It's required. We have at least training.
And we have there are various sort of video ones that we can do. We have sent out invites for when we've had them. I'm not sure who all honestly here has received those trainings or not. We tried to get somebody here, if you remember,
Yeah, I
at one
did.
point, and it kind of didn't happen, but well, that should be a goal.
Does
because
the
it's actually
foundation
required.
board have to do that too?
Yeah.
Is it all boards?
I thought it was any elected.
I think it's
Okay.
elected. I'm not sure if the foundation board, I don't think so.
So we did have a foundation board training a couple of years ago. And I think it was because we had some extra Title IX money or something. And they brought a group in and we spent the whole day playing games and,
Yeah, I think there are two things around this one, right? We want good training for what it means to be a policy board, right? And at the board level, kind of, that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is what's the required training around ethics, public meeting rules, law, things like that. So I'll get something together for us to do that.
That's really helpful because I've been on different boards and it depends, like if it's policy board or governance or
Yeah.
advisory. It's just different roles and it really helps to have that clarity of where that.
Yeah,
And there are new regulations for public meeting laws.
Yes.
And so we're required to take that one.
exactly.
So, and it was not a fun, all day meeting where we played games. It was more like an intense 2 or 3 hour meeting. Where we got a ton of information.
Yeah.
So I would take it again because there was so much information.
And OCCA is putting together one that's run by Karen Smith, their attorney, which I'm sure is much better than the one from the state folks or whatever. So, and she's been approved to be able to offer that.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
Okay.
so I think that's
Karen is really good.
she's very good
That
at
would
it.
be great.
Putting things together.
And again, if we could do it, if we could organize, schedule it for us as a group, as opposed to,
Right.
just have them schedule it in the hope that we can come.
Right.
We always have some folks, we always have some folks attend OCCA conference, which is good, and they bring back, they report out for that, so that's fine. The one that we didn't hit, that I said partially, we were in the middle of wanting to move over from, although I'm a paper person, as you can tell, from paper to more electronic kind of settings. We're trying to move our policy organization, but also board management, meeting management into a digital platform called Diligent. Lori went on leave and we kind of she's the guru behind that. And so because of that, we kind of got put on hold a little bit around that piece. So we're a little bit delayed in that. I took that out, I think, only because to me, that's sort of an operational thing. We'll get it done when we can. It's like,
It's on our agenda. We're just gonna talk about
I'm gonna
that.
talk about it a little bit later. Well, yeah, if I have stopped talking, so. But yeah, and then,
5, there are several we did not accomplish.
yes, because we wanted to, and this has just been challenging, I think, organizationally from a board meeting point of view. We wanted to increase community engagement with the school districts. And that was something that was challenging to do. We said we would invite county and city officials to board meetings. Again, we never really got to that. And again, I take responsibility for this because I suggested agendas, but it's, just something that didn't happen. We didn't engage in part because they've had a lot of turnover in the school district. We didn't really engage with the school districts very much. I really want, and I don't know this has to appear in a board goal or not, but it is a goal of mine to engage more with Trask and the Oregon Youth Authority. I think we've not done a good job at partnering necessarily with them. They're important constituents for us. So that school district piece, I'm not sure how we manage that. In the past, there have been joint board meetings, but that's just so, from my point of view, they're hard to manage and not real effective and almost performative, right? As opposed to,
Performative is an,
yeah,
operative word.
yeah, because we don't. Sometimes it's not sincere engagement, it's
They
engagement.
were focused.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Mary and I did those regularly, and I don't know if Betsy did, but they weren't focused, and so,
Were you going to visit other board meetings? Is that what you're?
yeah.
Yeah.
A couple. The value of them was relationship building, meeting people, which is always valuable, especially in a small community, but
yeah,
but I think it could be if we designed something that was focused, like if we want to present to, we want to get more high school students involved, like we were talking about earlier. And what do we want to get them involved in? And could we present to high schools specifically on those programs and say, here are the things we have to offer? Because we assume, I mean, all, just in general, that the people understand things that they probably don't understand. So, so if we can go and say, we have this to offer. Did you know we have this? And especially when we get CIT online.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, the HEB, and we're doing all kinds of awesome things people probably don't know about.
Right,
So if we had a focused outreach, it could be really dynamic.
yeah. And I think that's the way to approach it as opposed to trying to think about how do we get the boards together? It's how can we, maybe give presentations at the other board meetings or something. So it is more strategic, right? There's actually something engaging we can talk about as opposed to just, I mean, you all can go to a board meeting at Tillamook School District and it might be irrelevant from the standpoint of forming relationships with TBCC, right? So.
Yeah, and it could be on the scholarship opportunities,
Or
that
dual credit.
dynamic.
Or dual credit.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, because we have amazing scholarship opportunities. And it could be on FAFSA, it could be on like, here's the timeline and, these are the things that, because so many kids fall through the cracks of anybody to force them to do that. Or they can't get it done because their parents don't get their act together with the financial records.
So
So,
we do a lot of that. The question is, how do you want to participate in that, right? I mean, we do a lot of those things and the question is from a board level point of view, how does this board feel like we can engage or you all can engage with the school districts and Trask and things like that? I mean,
probably making presentations to their boards.
What does that really? Sounds really negative, but what outcome would we expect for the boards to really? I just see no purpose in that. But I could see a presentation to the school body.
Yeah,
Right,
it's just,
exactly. I think
students,
this is-
Where we
this is
each
very
take a
much more
turn
helpful.
talking about, from my perspective, why am I on the Board of Education and how do I feel about higher education and, what opportunities are out there for them? We all have our piece to say, whoever wants to. I've often thought that would be the way that you get more of those students to
Yes.
actually do something.
That's a great idea.
I was also thinking in terms of just ongoing workshops at the high schools on just financial aid 101 or how to even start the process. Because, my granddaughter struggled with that. I wasn't even aware of dual credits until like her sophomore year. Like the end of sophomore year, her last try, she started taking dual credits because I found out. And I was on all sorts of stuff. I was at school board meetings, I was on committees. The information wasn't getting out there. And I don't have all the answers on how to get it out there effectively. I really don't. But I think that anything that we can partner with the school counselors who are putting out fires all day.
Yeah.
Having like just that messaging all over the high schools where it's like in everybody's face that here's the opportunities, you have a future after Tillamook High School or Niacani or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you want to be? And seeing how they can be on track here locally without having to leave town. To do
Yeah,
that.
I do agree. I think that, yes, and to your point, Mary, I think that we're not gonna make a lot of headway with the boards, right? Where we need to have interactions with the superintendents and the principals, people like that, right? So getting into schools, I think is helpful. And I think having, maybe I can rethink how we would do this. And it's really about figuring out ways to get board members into conversations with superintendents or operational things, because we do have a relationship issue with, Tillamook School District in particular, because that's it's a mile and a half down the road. It's the largest school in the county. It's the most challenging one to work with. I don't know that that's at the board level necessarily, although it's a challenging board, but there is something about that relationship building that I think we could do that maybe the board could be helpful in that regard. So it's not just me going superintendent to superintendent, right? It's actually board to principal to whatever, but we see that there is an interest in partnering with them at the high level as well. So.
I can see, Aaron puts together some great visuals.
Mhm.
I would be more comfortable, especially talking about budgeting to students, just to have some visuals that would grab people and just put it right out there.
Yeah.
You tell it to be fairly simple, really.
Well, when you're in high school, you don't see beyond high school necessarily. You know what I mean? When you're in school, that's your whole world. When you're a teenager, you don't really have that long range frontal lobe
Yeah.
kind of stuff going on. So something immediately, this is what you do after you graduate. I mean,
And anyone can go.
and anyone can do it.
If
You
you
can
just
do it,
try,
even
if
if
you,
you've
it's
never-
not, it won't cost you anything even if you try.
Yeah.
If you make the proper applications and.
Well, and what my granddaughter ran into is trying to fill out scholarships. Some of the stuff was complicated because you go online and you're checking which ones, and then it gives you a template, and she didn't understand the process, and then trying to get an appointment with somebody at the high school to make time to do it. So she fell behind and she didn't get as many scholarship applications, and I was trying to help her, and she's like, no, grandma, you have to click here, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, go talk to so-and-so. Well, she goes, they're not available. So I just think having people that are mentors.
Yeah.
Besides just one person, 1 point person at the high schools where people are just available to go, oh, hey, let me help you with that. Would really help, because there's kids that want to do it and they're just like, yeah, I don't know how to, that's for other people. I don't know how to do this stuff.
Well, I think it just seems overwhelming.
It is.
And it
Way to
is.
start.
Right.
It is overwhelming. And so, yeah,
I love Mary's idea of connecting directly with students. It would be cool if we could figure out how to do that, like what age are we targeting and if not an assembly, which might be too big or difficult to manage. Maybe there are particular classes that would welcome a community college talk.
Right.
You know,
We
that-
do have classes that are supposed to be being offered right now on financial responsibility.
Exactly.
And that would lead right into that.
It would, yeah.
And a universal application for scholarship
Mhm,
is another issue that's, come about.
mhm.
so
Are all public schools doing a class for financial responsibility?
required.
It's required.
Okay.
and then you have to reach out to the teachers because they have their core curriculum that they have to fit it into. Because years ago, I used to
Right.
teach for Tides of Change, and we teach healthy relationships and things like that, bystander intervention. And it fit into the 8th and 11th grade health classes of the high school. And so I was working with Anna Kleeman and Greg Warner, those two teachers, and they were going through their state required curriculum. Okay, we can fit it into this unit, on this part. So it would be a conversation to have with the teachers and figure out what that would look
Well,
like.
it would be a question also to go to the school and see what exactly they are doing.
Yeah,
Because sometimes we have a perception out here of what we see,
Yeah.
but there are other things that are happening, especially in administration
Yeah.
and those, areas that maybe our kids haven't seen.
Yeah.
They don't know that they're available, but, we need to also know that they're available to our kids.
Surely they have things like career days. I mean, even when I went to high school 100 years ago, we had career days where people could talk about whatever. Like I could present a talk, for example, to community college as a gateway to further higher education. That's
Yeah, I think that would be
passionate
helpful.
about it. So there must be programs at the high schools.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's not as
Not so nice.
It's not as obvious if you think it is that they would have these things, right? And I'll also say that I think there's still this growing, I don't know if it's growing or not, but there's a continued, and it's more prevalent at some schools than others, feeling that, TBCC is your backup or your last choice or your last chance or whatever, right? And I think trying to change that narrative, we're still trying to change that narrative and that's difficult, but I do think, having board members and other, campus representatives engage directly with students helps that piece. At least we're out in front of them. If their counselors in the high schools aren't going to be delivering the message, maybe we can be delivering the message.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of high school students that come on campus during what's the state calls transfer days, and they often, will bring them in on buses. So we have an audience there. I think organizing something around that could be helpful too.
That would be great.
So I'm going to rework this goal 5 so that it's a little bit more specific. We'll try to make it a little bit more student centered, less board to board, but board engagement with what I consider TBCC students, right? I mean, I think Tillamook High School students are our students.
Mhm.
So So I'll work on it.
So it's more us promoting
It's from
the
the,
benefits of
Yeah.
TBCC and, you know, Mary mentioned the dual credits. That was one of the things that we brought up every time we had those board-to-board sessions was the tens of thousands of dollars that students were saving in dual credits. And if we're focused on you, we're supporting you already at high school, think what we can do for you when you come through the door of the building.
It's a good
Yeah.
message.
And a tremendous savings.
well, and we've had a realization, part of this is through some of the work we've done with this Rural Guided Pathways project. When you really look at, we've never really treated, and this is not unique to TBCC, it's kind of community college. Your dual credits, like, it's over there, it's the high school kind of thing, right? Dual credit for TBCC, that's over 40% of our students. I mean, that, when you look at it that way, right? And how much have we really intentfully invested in 40% of our students?
Mhm.
I mean, that's a little bit more than zero, but
Yeah.
not much, right? So that's another piece that we're really working on is reimagining that relationship and that these are our students and being more inclusive that these are TBCC students and we need to invest in them just like we invest in any other TBCC student.
Mhm. Yeah, there are some opportunities. I was thinking about the pathway, like how do we get to what we're talking about today? Maybe we start with school principals or with superintendents and principals, like you were saying, to find out like what is the right spot here? Is it a financial responsibility class or what is it? I've had the opportunity to go and present at Juntos classes, which is fabulous. It's the high school students from all three districts who are Hispanic, who identify as Hispanic, and it's great, but it isn't heavily their curriculum isn't heavily controlled like you were talking about.
Right.
So they have more flexibility to be like, yeah, come talk about this. So there are some opportunities like that. Wilson School used to be one of them, but
Yes.
now I don't know what happened with that.
Gone.
So, and maybe Trask would be, but we need to find out what the state regulations are, because of
Correct.
course that's a, correctional
Yeah.
facility. And, but there has to be a pathway where we could reach out to superintendents and principals first, and then, figure out, could we visit one class a year just to get it started?
I like that. All right, I will update that one for the packet next week.
There is, I just had this idea, it's a Tillamook Coast Visitors Association is organizing, Mary probably knows about this. I don't remember what it's called, but it is a program in the public school, at least South County, but maybe it's all the schools. It's a program to acquaint students with the idea of hospitality as a career. And they are looking for people to make presentations.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, those are, so we started as part of a grant that the Education Consortium received. We started a program at Nestucca in exploratory courses, right? And a focus on it was hospitality, but also carpentry, construction, other kinds of things that we had as well.
Bicycle repair.
Bicycle repair, yeah. So there is a lot of and we were going to expand those exploratory courses to the other high schools, but I don't think we did this year. So I can look into that, but that actually is a perfect place to get board members actually out in front of students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not that we want to just add, whole new programs to your list, but it has a lot of potential. I think impactful potential and would be cool for us, and speaking for all of us, which I should, to interact directly with students.
Good. All right. So I'll update that. You did well. I mean, the board did as a whole did well on everything else. That's the only piece that kind of sticks out in red there. So I think if we retool the expectation around that piece, and I can put together some action plans, I think that can get some board members out front, students, and it's great.
That'd be great to have that structure. I have a really good working relationship with Jennifer Marcello and Jill Ingram.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I'm happy to grease any kind of skins.
That would be good. They've been our, although I would say that I think Jennifer's gonna be a help being in there, as well.
I
So
wish that she'd just stay in that permanently, because she's amazing.
I doubt that's something she wants.
I know, because she wants either,
Is that Zelma?
she's the interim superintendent at Tillamook. Oh, so she is wonderful. Great.
All right, the last thing I'm gonna.
Okay, I have one more
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
because they just keep popping in my head.
Yeah,
There was at Tillamook High, medical exploration program. There was a class for students who were interested in medical careers.
Yes.
If there still is.
There is, it's my thought.
Held up.
That's Erin Valley.
yeah.
That would be a great place
It
to
would.
do a focused presentation about all of the medical programs we
Yes.
have here
Yeah.
and the financial aid opportunities.
Yeah,
Like,
I
and what
know.
these, what you can learn here and what you can do and what their learning potential is and.
Nia County wants to do a similar program as well.
The
So-
teacher for that at Tillamook High School is Erin Vallon, Erin Vallon. And she is really creative and student focused, and I think she'd love to have that.
Good. All right, if you could just real quickly for me, I'm just gonna point out a couple of things with my goals. I think they're pretty similar to last year's, so there's this document. There are a couple of things, I'm not gonna, the only one that I want to point out that I want you to focus on.
Okay.
It's the one that looks like this. It's not, I
That's the
don't know.
back of
I
this,
just, I should have numbered the whole thing.
Last couple of pages.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
I sort of, yeah, it's on the left side, probably, I'll go over some of it. I've called out my priorities, my goals there, 1 through 5. They're real similar to last year's, continuing some of the work. I will tell you that, the one that I'm gonna focus most of my time on is probably, if I were to prioritize, is probably number 3. Given where we're moving forward, the fiscal resilience and strategic stewardship. Again, that's work I think that's really important that my team will be engaged in. The rest of the work around the first 2 priorities, student success and workforce and program innovation. This is work that we're doing anyhow, right, as part of World Guided Pathways Project, some grants that we have at the state for first generation students. So again, this is just work. 1 and 2 is all in support of students. 3 is I think where I need to put a lot of my time in, engaged in this and leading that work. I have competent people that can lead that other work for me there. The other piece where I'm going to be continue to spend my time because I feel it's where I need to invest time, especially given, my goal, my third goal around fiscal stewardship is the organizational capacity and leadership. Those are going to be really important things for us moving forward. And I think, like I said, we're starting in a pretty good place of trust to do some of this work, but it won't be without its bumps along the road. So I'll do my best to sort of navigate those in the most empathetic ways I can and the most, human-centered way I can too. But again, my focus is on maintaining access to good programs for our students. So I don't know how you we didn't get a chance to discuss these at all. I got my other team coming in. I don't know if you want to,
Maybe we could just read them to ourselves over lunch.
yeah, I think if you.
I've skimmed them and they look good to me.
Yeah,
And I agree
look-
with your folks.
Look at them and then basically what I'll do over the course of the year is like that other document I showed you where I track kind of things that we've done to address these. I'll track these over the course of the year. I've already started doing that. And then you will use these basically as sort of I will present these to you at my evaluation in March or whatever, sort of the progress we've made and use those to kind of evaluate my performance on these goals. And if there's anything that's glaringly absent or not in the direction you think the board wants to go or somehow, by all means, I'll go into the conversation about this. But I think this supports the needed work of the college over the next year. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I got folks that like to work hard. I like to work hard.
That was my question. Are some of these going to be delegating and?
Oh, my gosh, of course, yes.
Good, good. I'm like, oh my God.
I wish I was capable of doing all of these on my own, but I'm not. I know.
A good leader's, true ability is to delegate.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm not the best at that, as Lori will tell you. We have this conversation constantly about I need to delegate more, but I trust my team. I've got some good folks. They're up for the task, and we, you know, our mantra is progress, and we just keep moving along. And if we can make progress, I always say, you know, if you look at the iPhone 17, that's not what it looked at. That's not what the iPhone 1 looked like, right? So we have to just keep making progress, iteration at a time.
Could we go back to something you said earlier, which was you weren't sure if you would take ideas for, call it expense savings, to the budget committee first or to this group first? And I would encourage you to bring it to this group first. I actually have some very recent experience in downsizing, unfortunately, in administrative, you know, not in operations, but in
Yeah,
overhead and administrative, and I think there's probably things all of us could share in that. I know Mary Kay
Yes.
could do that too. So, I would encourage you to visit with us first and get all the ideas we might have.
that would be my preference too.
Okay.
And I just was trying to get a sense of what, well, I mean, there is a role for the budget committee, but the budget committee approves a proposed budget. I'm talking about we're getting to a proposed budget,
Yeah.
right? So I do value the talent around the table, and I think that there might even be a reasonable, you know, if we get into this and some folks can make it, that we think about a board work session at some point where we can discuss some of these outside of a business meeting.
Good idea.
Thank you. Fabulous.
Yeah.
And another little thing that can turn into a big thing is maybe we should have some coaching around public relations
Mhm.
and what we're gonna go through.
Yes, good point.
Because the way that you phrase things sometimes makes all the difference
Yeah.
in how it's received. And I know you know that because you've said a few things like that, like, I'll be sure to report it this way, but
Yeah.
a professional in helping us with, here's my script.
That's a good point.
This is how I'm going to say it, because this is how we mean it, not just off the cuff,
I agree.
you know.
Great.
how it-
And yeah, consistency of message there.
Mhm, From all,
So everybody's
not just
on,
you, but all of us.
feedback,
Yeah,
same
I
page.
think that's important. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
You know, we had our president's council meeting last week, and again, we're all having similar conversations, and we also are going to rely to some extent on OCCA to help with some of those common speeches that we all will have, right? Because we don't really want one institution saying something different than another institution necessarily, so I think that might help here too, but I agree with you. I mean, I think, you know, I respect Britta, and she'll be the first to know she's new in the role as a public information officer too, in creating messages, so she would be open to having some of that support as well, so. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And the key message might be something on the order of, oh, I know this is very difficult. Change is always very difficult, and I can't believe we've had to do this, but we have to do what's right for college and for the community.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Exactly.
so much different than saying, yep,
Is
time to
what-
let her go.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
And it's just life, we're moving on, you know, and I know you would never say it that way, and probably none of us would either, but just the right way of saying it. is-
And that is important, yeah.
And it's trauma informed for the people that are impacted by those changes.
Yep.
Because they have to live in a small town, and if their positions eliminated or cut back, it's nice to have supportive language around that for that person too.
Awesome. Okay, break time?
Do you want to hear a short, cool bootstrap story?
Yes.
I heard this story recently about a young woman, she's 23, she lives here in Tillamook. She has been working at the cheese factory for 8 years. And the cheese factory, she's working at the cheese factory full-time, and she's a student here full-time. The cheese factory is paying her tuition, and she's taking pre-med classes because she's gonna become a veterinarian.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And English is not her first language.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they routinely support a couple of our students each year, full rides.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Be a
impressive.
great
So
story to have out in the media.
Yeah.
Well, it would, yeah, if, there's,
I understand.
right,
People have to be careful.
people are
Right.
afraid.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That might be.
All right, well, I mean it sincerely. I feel we have a good board. I feel good about the turnover we've had in the board in terms of the folks that have come on. Having the best
Wow.
interest of the college in mind. And that's real important because it's,
Cream of the crop.
it's important to me. So we'll have our leadership team come in and have lunch with us. How about that? You all
Great.
can certainly take a break for a while here, eat lunch and do
Great.
all of those things and
They're gonna come in, you mean, right now, today?
right there.
Remember, you gotta turn off the recording, Paul.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I do.
Lori's back.
Yeah, just that, yeah, get it before she
I'll
comes.
let her know you did it, yeah.
See, anybody know how?
Yes, you can have a moment. I don't know if I'm gonna be reading my grade.
Right, yeah.
That was a good idea.
I didn't realize the staff was coming in for lunch,
Yeah.
which was nice.
It's great. Yes, papers.
And
Wish I had,